All right, so I'm going to be doing a review from another Kickstarter comic that was sent to me by my good friend Chris, aka the Mount Vernon Kid, and we're going to be talking about Bronze Star. So you may be thinking from this cover that this is going to be like a cool Western kind of story, like a cool like Jonah Hex kind of story. And while there's elements of that in there, that's not what we're getting here. So, this comic is written by Mark Barron with artwork by Pat Broderick. Broderick, I don't know. I suck at last names. What this comic is this comic is basically a Western horror kind of graphic novel. It is basically set in the Old West about this character named Harvey Brogdon. And Harley Brogdon, I should say. Harley is just a wandering soul who one night during a card game, in order to protect himself, shot and killed a corrupt sheriff's son, leading him to escape into the far reaches of the Canadian territories. Now, starting a new life with the sheriff as a hired-on deputy. Now, you may be thinking, well, this is kind of like a Jonah Hex story, isn't it? And it kind of is. But here's the thing. The sheriff is a werewolf. Yeah, the sheriff is a werewolf. I'm not kidding. This is straight up a Western horror kind of comics. And I always enjoy when Westerns and horrors come together because it's always just a fun juxtaposition. Now, I do love the artwork in here. It's very reminiscent of like kind of gritty Western mixed with... It's a nice balance of both like Western kind of style to art as well as old... It has also a flair of old EC comic kind of art style too, especially with how they do especially with how shadows are done in this book. I also enjoy the fact that we get to see like, this is a werewolf book, and we also get to see like some other things that kind of go crawling in the night. The character of Harley Brogdon is he's a pretty solid character, and that's where my positives end. Now, this isn't a bad comic, and I never try to shit talk people who make comics. These people poured their heart and soul into making this book. And Barron and Broderick used to work for both Marvel and DC in the 80s and 90s. Now, having said that, I do have to be a little critical here. While I do understand that while Kickstarters need money and sometimes those aren't met, and you can only work with so much resources, it really feels like this got crunched. This really feels like this was a story that got crunched down as small as it is, because this is a very thin book and this is all one story. This comic basically jumps a lot. Like it's trying to tell like a 5-issue comic in like, what was it, 60 pages. Like, that's kind of the thing. And the other thing is that they do an epilogue comic that has no real place for it. I feel like if we cut the epilogue out, this epilogue, which is just a separate story in general, this comic probably would have a little more breathing room. But yeah, they jump around so much. There are some characters that I'm just like, wait, who are you again? And that's kind of the problem, is that this moves at such a rapid pace that... And yes, I do, while some comics benefit from moving at a rapid pace, you do need time to breathe, and this comic does not have that time to breathe. Like, the whole thing of, we don't really get to sit down with the sheriff and really understand him as a character, because he's off being a werewolf by the end of it, or a Rougarou, which is the Canadian werewolf, or New Orleans, depending on where you're from. The other thing is that there's this other demonic being called the Volcrum, which also ties into this. It looks very much like a Lovecraftian monster, and it's thrown in at the last second. And when it's all said and done, like a medicine man tells Volcrum, "You've destroyed the evil." I'm like, no, he didn't. It just ate the bad guy and left. It might come back. You don't know. It doesn't really have a lot to like. It really feels like this comic didn't want to sit down with its characters and like have a few moments. It really feels like everything moves so fast that you forget who's who. And even then, like Harley himself, we don't really get to see much of a character. While he is solid, he's more or less solid in the sense that, yeah, this is a character you've seen in, you know, the lone gruff Western loner. So it's nothing too out of the ordinary. And everything just happens and ends so rapidly, it's not even funny. It's just a major pacing problem for me. So do I recommend Bronze Star? It's alright. And I understand that these graphic, like, again, people are working on a budget when they make these comics, and I will never take that away from people who make these books, because they put their heart and soul into these. Having said that, though, it's just kind of there. It's really all I can say. It's there. So there you go, guys. That's my review for Bronze Star. Once again, I'd like to thank Chris for sending me this comic. I hate to shit talk on him, but he always tells me it's better that you're honest and tell me the truth than, you know, just lying about it. So that's what I did. Anyway, so once again, hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.